Please be advised, this episode discusses sensitive content that could be distressing to some listeners. Topics discussed include domestic violence, murder, and unalived bodies. I encourage you to take care of yourself, and if needed, resources and support are available in the episode summary. Thank you for listening. Dear Los Angeles, I want to take a moment to speak directly to the heart of this city, my home, and the community that has supported this podcast in ways I can't fully express. I know these past few days have been incredibly hard. The fires, the loss, the overwhelming sense of uncertainty. It's a lot to carry. As you face the aftermath of this tragedy, I want you to know that my thoughts are with you all. In times like these, it's okay to feel overwhelmed by the weight of it all. But from where I sit, what stands out is the extraordinary spirit of this city. Even in the face of unimaginable loss, I see neighbors and strangers alike stepping up, showing kindness, and offering support in ways that are both moving and inspiring. It's a reminder that despite the pain, the heart of Los Angeles is alive with compassion and strength. For everyone tuning in from LA right now, please know that you are not alone in this. Even from afar, I feel the deep connection to this city, and I believe in its ability to heal and rebuild. The road ahead may not be easy, but I know that LA has always been a place where hope is reborn, even in the toughest of times. With all my heart. It is off script time, and I am sitting down with Emma. Now, the way I got to know Emma is actually really fun because this is honestly, our very first time seeing each other physically through Zoom because we met on hold on, let me go all the way back. It was like for My Favorite Murder, yes?
Yeah, it was a
The
My
baby
Favorite
group.
Murder mothers group or like pregnancy group.
Expecting, yes. So we were in this group that was, created by murderinos who were a fan of the
Mhm.
podcast. And I think I joined that maybe in 2022 when I found out that I
Yep.
was expecting because the group was all, well, I can't remember. Was it like within a certain time frame that we were all due?
Oh yeah, it was You and Me due in 23 was the name of the group. And so it was all for 2023 babies. So yeah, I
Yes.
think I would have joined it in 2022 as well.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you had River when?
In February of 2023. So
There it is. Yep. And
Aquarius baby.
so, yeah. And then I had Lourdes in May of
Mhm.
2023, and we have just stayed in touch and we have created this friendship like
Yeah.
solely through social media. But
That
it's
is
been
one of
so
the beauties of social media.
right. I know. And so it's like you're my New York girl. I'm over here on the West Coast. But the one thing that, did bridge us essentially because it was a Murderino group was our interest in true crime. But you also did a podcast about the Long Island serial
Mhm.
killer. Yes. Can you talk to me about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, sure. So it was a victim-based podcast. The media really painted the victims as sex workers and almost like second-class citizens.
Yeah.
No one bothered to tell their stories of who they were or bothered to care about them like human beings. And so the primary focus of the podcast is talking about them and telling their stories, and also pa- you know painting a light on the fact that sex workers are often not deemed as worthy as other victims.
Yep.
And I feel like there's a lot of in the true crime community like almost fetishizing serial killers,
Mm.
and we're more so calling him for what he is and for all the horrible things he did and the impact that it had on the families and also the wider community. And yeah, so we recorded that back in 2020 before we'd actually discovered who the Long Island serial killer was.
Yeah.
It was like the best day of my life, the day that they caught him.
Talk to me about that day. Yeah, that must have been
Yeah.
massive for you.
So this was like River was a I think he was a small baby at the time. I think it was summer of 2023 that happened. And I was literally glued to my TV the entire day. I was so happy they caught him. I
Mhm.
was watching every TikTok about it. I was watching every news story about it. And I was just completely amazed that they started this new task force. I think it was in February of that year. And
Mhm.
within 8 weeks of that new task force, he was a suspect. Yet they let this case go unsolved for a
Yeah.
decade or
Yes.
over a decade.
Yeah.
And it just shows that no one was putting resources behind this case because they were sex workers. So
Mhm.
no one really cared. And
Mhm.
it's only after, the Suffolk County Police, changed hands in leadership. And we had new people on the case, we had a new task force, that this case was simple to solve. It
Yeah.
could have been solved a long time ago. Literally within 8 weeks, he was a person of interest. That says it all. And, I'm just so happy that it has been solved. He's now been, convicted for the murder of Valerie Mack, which was always long associated with the Long Island serial killer. And I
Mm.
do believe that there are gonna be more murders that have been unsolved that he is gonna be charged with as well, because there's definitely a lot more than what he's currently being charged with.
100%.
Mhm.
You're also touching on something so important that I think, as true crime storytellers, if you will, and especially those that are victim centric, how much these updates like affect us as
Mhm.
people. So I know in 2020 because I was covering the Lori Vallow Daybell case, and I can still vividly remember the day that those kids were found, on Chad Daybell's property. And so it just goes to show, there are so many creators in this space, and while I do have a strong liking to those who are very more victim centric, there's those that do fetishize. Oh my
That's
gosh.
a hard word to say. I know what you mean.
Can't even say it this morning. Goodness. Like I said, I've been on my break lately. But anyhow, yes. So it really adds a different layer of how you're affected by these stories. And just like you
Mhm.
said, the matter of 8 weeks is absolutely asinine because this is now, we're in a world with such amazing DNA technology as well. So it's like
Yep.
all of these things could have been handled long ago, but it's 2023. I mean, like, good Lord,
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yep.
But one of the things that I did watch, I think it was in 2020 as well, Liz Garbus premiered her first scripted narrative, and it was about the victims of
Mhm.
Lisk, and it was so well done. And so, if people have not seen that yet, I believe it is on Netflix still. But you are so right. Like the numbers that I'm sure that are his actual reality, we don't even know yet. And
Mhm.
and I so hope that there's closure for those families and
Yeah.
really the victim ranking in this industry, if you will, is really, really disturbing. And that's also kind of
Absolutely.
why I wanted to have you on for this off script episode. But before we transition to that, one thing that we did start talking about was Justin Baldoni. And I think this is going to be kind of like a reoccurring theme that I'm talking about with different people because it is so disturbing and so
So
fucked up.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Mhm. Those
Uh,
text messages
oh my
those text
God.
messages say it all.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the most telling and concerning things was um, his text messages outlining the PR agency to completely label his profile as anti-domestic violence and pro-feminism, whilst trying to cover his tracks for sexual assault, sexual harassment allegations. That
Mm-hmm.
is a wolf in sheep's clothing and absolutely a predator because he is literally weaponizing and hiding behind feminism and anti-domestic violence to cover up his own violence and his own abuse.
Exactly. And it is, and I'm actually kind of mad at myself about this
Mhm.
whole situation because I I think even in this first season, I think I talk about him and how I was like, wow, he's really bringing awareness to
Mhm.
domestic violence, but that says something, and I should know better at this point because he operated very much like some of my own abusers in the past that, are in this industry. And it goes to show how far people will take it to
Mhm.
ensure that they're not outed. This is so disturbing on so many different levels because we're also talking about a smear campaign that was delegated through social media, through Reddit,
Mhm.
through all of these platforms that, society really talks to and collaborates, and there's TikToks and all this stuff. But it now makes me question every single woman that has been used in this fashion. I mean, everyone already knows where I stand when it comes to Amber Heard in the first place.
Yep.
And again, and I think I posted something on my story where it said, the bare minimum is giving yourself a pat on the back for supporting Blake. But if you still find Johnny Depp a victim, there's
Mhm.
still a lot you need to, work through in that level. But it goes to show how powerful social media can actually be and how dangerous it is. And I
Yep.
don't want to say that Blake, isn't without her faults, in terms of like the PR and promoting her, public line, her personal line of, hair products, whatever that was. We can still be critical of those things. Those two things
Mhm.
can still coexist, but she did
Yeah.
absolutely nothing to deserve any of the bullshit that he put her through. And
Exactly.
and like I said, I was a fan of him. And he seemed like such a family man. He was so, talking about how he's raising his sons and X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, my skin is crawling because I
Mhm.
finally read the whole document a couple nights ago, and I was just like, oh my God, this is disturbing. And I'm currently watching It Ends With Us. I'm halfway through. As you know, trying to watch a movie with a toddler is its own Olympic
Yeah, it's
sport.
it's an
But
increment for sure.
yeah, yeah. But I think it's important that I
Yeah.
still watch this because I still want to understand how this is being perceived in terms of like domestic violence and
Mhm.
how that storytelling is being done because this is a movie that so many people have different thoughts and beliefs in, and especially speaking with other trauma survivors, a lot of them did see it and they're anxiously awaiting to find out what my thoughts are. But at the end of the day, this is some shit. And this is some bullshit that we just watched, and it really terrifies me that we need to be so much more on high alert about what we're
Mhm.
consuming on social media. And when we vilify women like this, again, I'm gonna say it, Beyonce. We
Mhm.
have this whole Jay-Z scandal. I don't even want to call it a scandal, come out, right? That there are rape allegations pertaining to a 12, 13-year-old girl. Okay, but now
Literally a child.
literally a child. This was in the late 90s. And while the survivor, to my understanding, has since backtracked, I'm not somebody who's going to sit here and say that didn't happen. Or,
Mhm.
like I understand the difficulties of trying to figure out how to navigate life once you're in the public eye and doing so in a way that is the most powerful billionaire out there as Jay-Z. And so when we look at the videos of like Cassie and Diddy in the hotel room, you mean to tell me that after observing that, you can't hold any understanding or space that that could potentially be someone else's life that we know
Mhm.
nothing about. So the fact that that news dropped the night before the Mufasa premiere, um, Jay-Z was on the red carpet with Beyonce and Blue Ivy. But from a parent standpoint, why wouldn't you? That is the biggest thing that your child has done. And you could see in Blue's face that it was already just so. not a happy moment, in my personal opinion. Like,
Yeah, I agree. I think, like, something like that to go through is so traumatic, especially for a child, and people are so critical,
yeah,
of Beyoncé, and I think that they forget that she's human too.
they always forget that. And it's because she
Mhm.
is so private. I know that there are so many rumors and things flying around, but like watching people vilify her the minute that that news dropped was disgusting to me because, again, we do not know the life that she lives behind closed doors. Just because she has access to all of this money, she has made all this money, she has, great success and such a talented individual. But why does that go out the window? One of the most dangerous times for a woman to leave an abusive relationship is when?
Mhm. Mhm.
When they're trying to get out.
Exactly.
Why are we not showing the same grace? Understanding that being a parent too convolutes things, okay? And your
Mhm.
child is now in the public eye, and that was the very next day. Do I think that was strategically done by whomever this lawyer was? Absolutely. I think that was, I mean, now knowing about Baldoni and the level of what his team did,
Yep.
all of this is curated. And so, I just want to go out there and fully go on record and say we really do not know the levels of abuse if there is that, happening behind closed doors with Jay-Z and Beyonce. I don't want to speculate, but we don't know jack shit. And like I said, after watching Diddy do what he did to Cassie, my full like level of he's capable of anything. These men
Mhm.
are capable of fucking anything at this
Yep.
point. And
And you
and
cannot
yeah,
trust shit on social media. You
no,
can't trust
no,
anything that you see.
nope.
So much of it is planted, so much of it
Mm-hmm.
is specifically pointing one way
Mm-hmm.
that nothing's real anymore.
No, no. And the fact that people are commenting, because today is the 26th of December, and so yesterday she did her performance during the NFL, and what was the first thing I see pop up? Why are people still supporting her? Why, she's close to Diddy. Excuse me, there has not been a single court filing with her fucking name in it. Let
Uh-huh.
let me
Thank
be
you.
crystal clear here. Stop it. It also feels very racist and misogynistic
Mhm.
because the amount of times that people come for this woman is disturbing and disgusting. And I will be the first to say someone who has fully listened to her music and her lyrics and her writing. She talks so much about her trauma, y'all.
Mhm.
She lays it the fuck out. So if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna sit here and say that, she doesn't acknowledge these things, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Exactly.
Take an edible, listen to Cowboy Carter, turn off the lights. And
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 turn off social
and
media.
and turn off social media. Oh my God. Like it's wild to me that we can have, all this anger towards, Blake for not doing XYZ, for talking about domestic violence, for not raising this awareness, for not doing da 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 da. But then when that very well could be the reality for another woman, a black woman, all of that goes out the
Yeah,
window. So
exactly.
so that is my that is my rage for today.
Oh,
But
let it out, girl. I
yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. So, needless to say, one of the things that I brought up, though, in the first episode that I did of this podcast, I talked about a particular crime that was happening not too far from you in New York
Mhm.
City, in the Brooklyn area. But before we get into that case, because there are multiple cases in this, I want
Mhm.
to talk about what's going on in Australia and going on with women because you are not the only Aussie friend that I have that has been bringing much awareness to this, but I do have another who also has been posting similar content to you. Can you talk to me about Isla?
Yeah, sure. So Isla Bell, she was a really, really young girl. She was only in her late teens. I think she was 19.
Mm.
And she went missing recently and was subsequently murdered by a man in Melbourne, Australia. So on October 4th of this year, she was seen leaving her home in Brunswick at about 6 p.m. and she never came home. She was never seen again. She was missing for quite a long time, and there was a lot of speculation while she was missing.
Mm.
Her alleged killer, I'm probably gonna butcher his name, but fuck him.
Yeah, genuinely.
Right, Murat Ganiv. He allegedly told police that he met Isla when he was moving some items from a property in St Kilda, which is kind of maybe about a 15-minute drive from Brunswick. And he offered her somewhere to stay, which she agreed to. And there was some CCTV footage of her captured outside of his apartment, and she was seen entering his apartment just before 9:30 on the 5th of October, and she
Mm.
never left. She was never seen again. On
Mm.
October 6th, her phone records show that she sent a text message at 11:34 p.m., so she had been at his place for quite a while. And then just after midnight, she sent a Snapchat post to her friend saying that she'd found the best Russian sugar daddy. And
Mm.
she stated that this man had been lavishing her with gifts and saved her from sex traffickers. And these comments were really weaponized by the local media. They were suggesting she was a sex worker. They used a lot of language that was victim blaming
Mm.
and really kind of implied that she was asking for it, essentially.
Oh my God.
Um, there was the CCTV camera that was outside his apartment, was actually able to capture some footage from inside the apartment through like a gap in the kitchen window. And at 12:43 on the 7th of October, you can see a fight occurring between Murat and Isla, and
Mm.
she's seen to fall to the ground, and he's hitting her, he's beating her over and over.
Oh my God.
She was in that position for several hours, and later that afternoon, her phone was either switched off or ran out of battery. By this stage, her family are beginning to be very worried because they haven't heard from her, and it's unlike her to just disappear for this amount of time. Um, a few days later, on October 9th, an associate of Murat, I'm gonna butcher this name as well, but also fuck him, Lial Yaf, he came to his apartment towing a trailer with a fridge in it, which is so
Oh
suspicious.
my God.
They can actually see on the CCTV footage them moving the fridge into the apartment, and then it is moved out of the apartment wrapped in clear plastic. So they obviously put something in that fridge. And, it's so suspicious because who for a short time moves a fridge into an apartment and then takes it out unless
Yeah.
you're trying to move a body. Like, let's be
Yeah.
real.
Mhm.
That's exactly what they were doing.
Oh my God.
And then, the fridge is moved to several locations from that, and they're also seen doing extensive cleaning in the vehicle and in the trailer. So this is very suspicious, and it's really quite blatant what they're doing.
Yeah.
Eventually, they were both arrested, and Murat admitted to moving her body, but claims he did not kill her, which is such bullshit. This is a common tactic we see with killers is they try to
Mhm.
distance themselves. They
Mhm.
do a half admission where they admit to one thing, but not the worst thing that they did, probably because they're not ready to accept that they did it themselves. And
Correct.
also, this is where a lot of victim blaming comes in. They try to say that, they try to say, oh, she died from a drug overdose, or, oh, like this is something that was her fault. It had nothing to do with us. And that's, a part of this that really irks me. The victim blaming that were from the public, the media, and also from the perpetrators themselves.
Yeah.
It's so obvious what they did.
My God.
And what's even crazier about this story is the accomplice who helped him move the body, Eyal, he had flights booked to Bulgaria the day after he was arrested. So this guy was about to flee the country.
Oh my God.
And he claims he didn't know what was in the fridge. He was just helping a friend move it. And he was released on bail despite being a flight risk. He
Wow.
literally had tickets to Bulgaria.
Wow. Wow.
And I feel like this really shows how broken the justice system is in Australia, because
Absolutely.
violent offenders are often given soft sentences and released back into the public.
My God, really?
Oh, yeah, in recent weeks in Melbourne, Victoria, the same state that Isla went missing in and was murdered in, Benjamin Shoppy, he's a convicted and violent sex offender. He escaped for a second time. So, how he escaped, he was on day leave, which basically means he can leave the prison during the day and interact with society he has a staff worker with him. But he
Wow.
literally fled from a cafe and has not been located yet. And the first time he escaped in 2020, he immediately reoffended against a woman and a child.
Oh God. Seriously?
So, yeah, that is really baffling. The fact that not only was he a convicted sex offender, that he was first of all given day leave back in 2020 and then given it again 4 years later after reoffending.
That is wild. I don't think I have ever known any of this to,
It
oh
Yeah.
my God. And and the femicide in Australia is pretty rampant, and it seems like it has been escalating. Is that correct?
It absolutely has. So, a total number of 58 women were victims of domestic homicide in 2023, which is
Mm.
up from 35 killed in 2022 and 33 in 2021. But this year was a rapid increase in those violent crimes. As of April 2024, one woman was killed every 4 days.
My
And
God.
then as of today, December 26th, 101 women have been killed by men in domestic violence incidents this year. In November alone, we lost 12 women to domestic violence, which is one every 2.5 days.
Oh my God.
And, the the population in Australia is a lot smaller than in America, so these rates are staggering. I mean, any loss to domestic violence or homicide in general is horrible,
Mhm.
but it is really showing a pattern of abuse, a pattern of neglect of women, of not protecting women, and also with the majority of these cases, they depersonalize these women. They
Mm.
don't even say that they were murder victims, they reference them in the media as being killed. And that really distances the public and creates less empathy when it's not really described what actually happened. And
My
it
God.
really shows that nothing's been done to further protect women, but on the contrary, there was a handful of young men that tragically lost their lives due to violence in the nightlife scene. So people were getting drunk, getting into fights, and essentially there were a lot of cases of one punch murders where it's just one punch, but they hit their head and they end up dying. And that's horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible, and it seemed like almost overnight, the one punch law was introduced, which basically enforces a life sentence for everyone who strikes the head or neck during a physical altercation that causes death. Previously, if someone lost their life in a physical altercation, the penalty was much softer, and they really wouldn't have served a long, prison sentence because it's not murder, it's technically negligent homicide. So where is
Wow.
the same level of protection for women?
Right.
Where are the laws to protect women from domestic violence? There really isn't much going on, and these rates keep increasing, and I just have to wonder what's it gonna take for Australia to take this seriously and
Right.
to start protecting women the way that we deserve to be protected and the way that men are protected.
This is really disturbing, to say the least. Do you have any inklings or any idea why it's rising so much each year?
That's a really good question. I think that misogyny is extremely high in Australia. There aren't enough resources for women in violent relationships. Even a policewoman came out recently after a woman was murdered and said, "Oh, the reason why these women are dying is because they don't report the violence." Again, victim blaming. There is a reason why women don't come forward. They're
Mm,
not given the resources to be able to navigate this, to even understand the early signs of domestic violence before it
mhm,
turns to physical violence,
mhm,
resources to be able to safely leave, and also to be taken seriously by police.
mhm.
The fact that a police woman is saying that is just an insight into how women are treated in Australia when it comes to reporting domestic violence and why people don't report it. And, this is happening in America as well.
Yeah.
Women aren't taken seriously, women aren't protected. This is a man's world, and the same the same protection is not provided to women as it is men.
You're absolutely right. And which is why, like I said at the beginning, when we have pieces like this in terms of art, displaying domestic violence, doing this in a way that is communicating to the globe, if you will, that this is bad. This is not good.
Mhm.
These are the signs of escalation. This is what DV is. And I think that's this massive disconnect. But why does it always land back on the woman? Oh, well, they didn't go and report. Repeating myself once again, why is that? Why is that? Because
Mhm.
they're literally living in survival mode all day, every day, every single day. You don't know how to get yourself out of it when you are in the thick of that. We are also conditioned. I mean, truly, up until recently, like I started realizing how conditioned we are in this country to, stay and obey by your man,
Mhm.
and which is why I've been answering so many questions when it comes to Utah and all of these perceptions of Utah women just being so naive and why are they taking this abuse and it's visibly seen on TV. Why? Because that's how we were conditioned. And I think,
Yep.
now that we are having these conversations, now that we're bringing awareness to it, I really hope, that this gets to the women in Australia, that there are resources. You do not have to stay, but it is a matter of who's going to believe you, who's going to take care of you, who is actually your support system. And that's the broken system that keeps
Yep.
going and going
Mhm.
and going. And so just once you started talking to me about this and I started, reading more about your posts, it's terrifying to me that this is just the norm. The norm.
Mhm.
Like where are we in this, line of evolution, if you will, what is that going to take? And knowing that the one punch law came in that quickly and swiftly, it seems like
Mhm. Yeah, it was
what
very swift.
was,
It
yeah,
was very quick, and only a handful of men all tragically lost their lives. Any life is a loss, but the fact that it's been 101 women now this year, yet I think it was 5 men were killed. If 5 men were killed in domestic violence, they would be raging, there would be
yeah,
changes.
yeah.
And I think another important question is, why is it up to women to solve domestic violence? Why are
Mm-hmm.
men not taking the action to educate themselves, to
Mm-hmm.
watch for the signs of domestic violence, and to speak out on it as well?
Exactly. And I think it's a big pride issue
Mhm.
because what I've also started realizing, our behavior in adults, in our adulthood, all stems from childhood.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. Every single person on this fucking planet has trauma. I don't care who you are. You are not
Mhm.
immune to it. You've
Mhm.
experienced something traumatic, and it wasn't just once or twice, multiple times. So, any men out there who, have been hurt in some capacity, whether that be physically, emotionally, mentally, figure that out.
Yep.
Figure out, what is the root of that. Being in a blind rage, being angry, being all of these different ways that we, hey, I'm going to bring it to Miss Rachel. It's okay to have big feelings.
It's okay to have your feelings. I love Ray Ray, she's the best.
She is the other parent in this house. Yeah. And, but it really means something, and I say that to my toddler. Big feelings are okay, but we need to keep ourselves safe. We need to make sure that we have gentle hands. We're not doing X, Y,
Mhm.
and Z, right? It's this gentle parenting that is really coming in with our generation. But I am hopeful that hopefully men in our generation and younger start understanding and realizing, as we have more conversations, as there are more examples happening, in the media of what's really going on. What is domestic violence? Because I'll bring it back again. We do not need to see it to believe it.
Mhm.
That video of Cassie was so disturbing to me
Yep.
and was so disturbing for so many other people. Why can't you understand that that was just a morsel of what it could
Mhm.
be and what women
Yep.
actually go through in those actual scenarios? So once again, the victim blaming, the, breaking down the misogyny and how all of this is kind of just it all relates. All of it
Mhm.
relates. But oh, this is bad, bad, bad. P. Diddy is bad, 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 bad. Okay, then where the fuck are you, other people? To
Yeah.
call out your friends, to call out your family members who may be a violent perpetrator. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's all of these things that we want to bring awareness to. We're raising those red flags, but is it actually making a difference? And I really do hope, with time again, that we keep putting pressure on this. We start raising awareness, especially because we're here in America. I mean, when we talked about talking about this, it was so important to me because there are listeners in Australia. I can
Yeah.
see where, this is going to other countries and other people. So it's like I just want to be able to open that conversation that you don't have to stay. And I will do my best to add as many resources that as I can find, based out in Australia for any, survivor who is looking for answers or figuring out how to get out of it. It is important that we have people like yourself, who also have loved ones over there and who are probably, again, this is a fearful, terrifying thing to learn
It
as
is. It really
well.
is.
I mean,
Mhm.
that speaks to so much of not having any value in a woman's life, let alone
Mhm.
in this scenario. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's
Yeah.
it's pretty fucked, but going to the next fucked up object or
Oh
object
my goodness.
discussion. So
Mm.
Newtown Creek, this is truly when you started posting about this, I got chills up and down my spine because I'm no stranger to the serial killer world. And this was honestly absolutely terrifying. So can you give me a little rundown of what has been happening in New York?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. There's been, over the past 2 years, 3 young men that have gone missing and been found dead in the same creek. It's called Newtown Creek, which borders Brooklyn and Queens, and surrounds Bushwick, Maspeth, Ridgewood, East Williamsburg. So it's really quite a large mass of water. These men, they went missing after visiting local music venues in the area, and the nature of their deaths is very similar, very suspicious, and it seems like it's happened too many times for it to be a coincidence.
Mm.
And is it possibly related to the smiley face murders? That is a really interesting aspect of it.
Hmm.
So just to give you a bit of background, so Newtown Greek, oh my God, Newtown Greek, Newtown Creek. So, like I said, it's situated between Brooklyn and Queens. It's quite big. It's 4 miles long, thereabouts, and
Oh.
it flows into the East River. And it used to be a natural drainage area, but it's really become a dumping ground for industrial products and toxins. And it is a very desolate industrial area surrounding it. There's minimal lighting. It's quite isolated and quiet. There's really no foot traffic whatsoever. Uh, Interestingly, in the 90s, serial killer Joel Rivkin actually dumped one of his bodies there, at least one of his bodies that we know of.
Mm.
The victim was never identified and was just really referred to as number 9, which is truly sad that we were never able to find out who she was.
Yeah.
And she was found floating in a 55-gallon steel drum in
Mm.
Newtown Creek. Oh my God, I said it again. Newtown Creek. What's wrong with me?
We're both tired moms for Christmas.
Uh, oh, yeah, making all that magic happen. And,
Truly.
like, due to gentrification, this area has become popular for music venues. So
Mm.
a lot of the old warehouses and old industrial locations have been renovated and made into music venues where a lot of concerts are held. And, because it is quite an isolated area, it is great for having live music because, you're not going to get noise complaints from neighbors. And so, some of the largest venues in this area are Brooklyn Mirage and the Knockdown Center, but there's many more around here. There's Brooklyn Steel, Our Wicked Lady, the Meadows. There's so many venues in this area now. And so it is becoming more popular, but still outside of, an event being on, there's not much going on around there.
Mm-hmm.
And the first death to happen was Carl Clemente. So he was a smart guy. He was a clinical case manager who spent his days helping young people navigate mental health issues. So he was really a dedicated worker that was helping people with mental illness, which is amazing. He was a really loving guy. He loved Marvel. He loved enjoying road trips with his friends. He was a talented guitarist and composer and also performed around New York City in a band. And he was well loved by his friends and family. But on June 11th in 2023, he was turned away from the Brooklyn Mirage concert venue, which I mentioned earlier, because he was a bit drunk. He'd had a few too many drinks. And so, most people, you would think they'd just call an Uber and they would just head home. But he seemingly disappeared. He was last seen on CCTV footage walking towards a nearby gas station on Metropolitan Avenue, which is a main road, and then suddenly seeing running away, looking back over his shoulder and running away like he was running away from someone or something. And he ran into a lumberyard and was never seen again. So this smells so fishy because
Mm-hmm.
what's he running from? Why is he running to begin with? And why is he running into a lumberyard if not to hide from someone?
Right.
And 5 days later, on June 16th, they found him floating face down in the English Kills, which is a branch of Newtown Creek, not far from Grand Street. That's an important part of the story that we will come back to. So he didn't have his wallet on him when he was found. A worker at a nearby lumberyard actually found his wallet in the days after his disappearance and mailed it back to his parents. And, you know, after he was found, his father asked some important questions. So, like I said, why was he running? He could have
Yeah.
just waited for a cab. And, this was a young, intelligent man. He'd gone to college. He was working with people to help mental illness. So, this is out of character. He was a level-headed guy. And, like I said, why run into a lumberyard? Why not an Uber or a cab if nothing sinister was happening?
Yeah.
So this, just this case alone is so fishy. Um,
Yeah.
why didn't he have his wallet on him? Why would he be separated from his wallet if someone didn't take it from him?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you come to being in a creek? The Newtown Creek, it's not just like you can just run into it on accident. It's something that you would intentionally go to. And, there are fences that are stopping you get into the creek. So none of it
Wow.
really makes sense. And, that alone raised a lot of people's ears to, this sounds really familiar and this sounds really suspicious. Is there something going on here? Just the next month of that year, on July 28th in 2023, another man went missing from the same venue. So similar to Carl, it was a young man. His name was John Castick. He was 27 years old and a Goldman Sachs analyst. So again, another really smart guy, intelligent guy, level-headed guy. He was young, charismatic, as described by his friends, who had lots of friends and loved to travel. And on July 28th, he was attending a Zed's Dead show with a bunch of friends. And it was about 6 weeks after Carl went missing. So, again, very strange that this happened. He told some friends he didn't feel well, but he wasn't acting significantly impaired. Um, and he left the venue at about 2:30 on the 29th. And you can see him on security footage walking down the street, apparently unimpaired, looking completely fine. But then he disappears for 81 minutes. His location's unknown, and what happened in this time period is a mystery. But then at 3:51 a.m., his phone is recorded his location at Metropolitan Avenue Bridge, which is about an 8-minute walk from Newtown Creek.
Mm.
And that's his last known location. And he went missing for several days. And then on the morning of August 1st, about 3.5 days later, he was found floating in the water shirtless at 1100 Grant Street, the same street that Carl Clemente was found on. And it's about a 5-minute walk between these two locations.
My God.
Very suspicious. And so he was found shirtless, which is strange, but he did have his phone, wallet, and keys on him, which
Mhm.
is different to Carl's case. And essentially, the NYPD have claimed that this was a case of drowning. There was no obvious signs of trauma, but a number of his friends were very suspicious. And noting that John, he isn't someone who would do something reckless. And, he was described by his friends as a very responsible young man that wouldn't just disappear, let alone swim into dark waters after a night out. Not to mention, everyone in New York knows how polluted Newtown Creek is. No one would swim in a creek or a body of water in New York. The water is disgusting. It's so polluted. Like the way that the police are painting this as just accidental death from drowning makes no sense because you can't easily fall into Newtown Creek and there's no way in hell anyone would go swimming there. But like his family have tried to make sense of the death, and his father suggested maybe he had an allergic reaction because he did have a peanut allergy. But, he was seemingly unaffected when he left the venue.
Mhm.
And why did he not call an Uber? Where was he for those 81 minutes? And why would an allergic reaction cause him to end up in the water?
Yeah.
And even more so, why was he not wearing a shirt? There are so many questions that make this so suspicious. And it just seems like police are so quick to brush it off as nothing and to not investigate it further. And, it really gives me the vibe that the police just wanted to case close this and
Mm.
didn't want to have to put the effort into investigating this further because it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
And, the NYPD don't really have a great record, especially at the moment with I don't know if you heard about that woman that was set on fire on the weekend, and there's a video of a cop just walking past her.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Not trying to help
Wow.
her. He's a trained first responder. He did nothing while she was being burnt alive and murdered on the subway.
I did see like a snippet of it, but did not
Those
fully. Oh
videos
my
are out there. It's
God.
horrible.
Oh my
And,
God.
that's why most New Yorkers have no faith in the police here because they are incredibly flawed. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's not good. And, after John's death, Carl's father, the first victim, was saying how much similarity there was between the deaths. And, he even is quoted saying that something weird is happening here. There must be some connection. Carl's father also noted that there are very big differences between how Carl and John's remains were retrieved from the scene. So Carl was a person of color. Sorry, yeah, Carl was a person of color, and John was white. And so in Carl's recovery, there was no body bag and no preservation of evidence. They literally just pulled his body out and put him on the ledge But
Oh
in
my
John's
God.
case, they put him in a body bag and they collected evidence. So, in a case where someone is seen running from someone and their wallet is not found on the body, why would you not collect evidence? And then, yeah, like, despite these odd similarities, the medical examiner determined both died from drowning. There was nothing suspicious going on. The medical examiner claimed that Carl's death was an accident, but John's remains undetermined. And however, they can confirm that they can't determine why Carl ended up in the water. They don't understand how that happened. So it really sounds like the authorities aren't even sure. And what's so scary is during this time period, a person was abducted from the same venue by an unlicensed taxi driver and was kept captive for an entire weekend. These two people that kidnapped him were posing as taxi drivers. He thought he was getting into his Uber, and they kidnapped him and forced him to spend thousands of dollars over the course of the weekend. This man was a doctor, and at the end of the weekend, he was meant to be on call in the hospital. And essentially, he convinced them that if he didn't go to his shift, it would be suspicious. So he was able to go to hospital and alert the authorities that he'd been kidnapped. And he escaped with his life because these people were threatening to murder him unless he, spent these thousands of dollars on them. And, by all chances, they would have murdered him if he wasn't able to get out. Again, this is so suspicious that this is all from the same venue. And, are these two people responsible for the other deaths? What's even crazier is exactly 1 year to the day that John Castick was at Brooklyn Mirage and went missing afterwards, another man went missing from a nearby venue called the Knockdown Center. His name was Damani Alexander, and he had gone to a concert. He went missing, and 2 days later was found in Newtown Creek, very close to where the other bodies were found, which another huge red flag for me. So, similar to Brooklyn Mirage, the Knockdown Center, it's a popular venue, but really desolate industrial area surrounding it. And there's also really no foot traffic at night aside from the concerts, and there's minimal lighting as well and minimal cell service. So, despite, even excluding any perpetrators or, violence from others, it's also just a very dangerous area because if you fall and hurt yourself, there's really no one that can help you around, or you can't even call for help. But this really scary thing about Damani's case is he sensed he was in trouble at the venue and he contacted his friends expressing his concern. So he sent some text messages saying, "I think dude's trying to kill me." Then mentioned the name, the Knockdown Center, and dude's waiting for me outside. Soon after sending those texts, he stopped responding and was never seen from again, never heard from again. They found his body close to 1260 Grand Street. That sounds familiar because that's very close to where the other bodies were found, which is very strange. And they returned his wallet, but not his phone. And the detectives told his mother that he likely didn't drown and there were no signs of trauma. So why was he found in the creek? He knew how to swim. He was an experienced swimmer. And the fact that he was expressing concern for his well-being, that he was in danger, that there was someone after him, there's so many red flags here. Yet the medical examiner said the cause and manner of death are undetermined. And no one could essentially work out what happened to him.
Right. My
And
gosh.
it's just so crazy that this has happened a third time. The police aren't taking it seriously. They say there's no signs of a serial killer, but 3 people at least are dead. This is probably going to happen again. If this is a killer or killers, they seem to kill during the summer periods where there is the most people in that area. And they have a very specific dumping ground, very specific, all within about a 5-minute walk. And, Grand Street is a main road. It's very easy to stop over and dump a body. It's very industrial and desolate at night, so it's really the perfect location to dispose of a dead body. And, from everything I talked about, these are all cases of young men in local concert venues, some of which the same venue, who have disappeared after a night of drinking at a concert. And some of these are very suspicious, really signs that they are in danger, with Carl running from someone or something, Damani saying he was in danger. Yet no one is taking this, like, authorities aren't taking this seriously. And, I think for a lot of true crime fans out there, this is going to sound very similar to the smiley face killers theory. So, the smiley face killers theory, just for those that don't know about it, it was formed by retired New York City detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duart, as well as Dr. Lee Gilbertson, which was a criminal justice professor and gang expert. So the theory argues that there is a large number of drownings across the country in the last 25 years, and they believe that it is all orchestrated and committed by a highly organized gang of serial killers, which sounds crazy, but if you hear the similarity in all of these deaths, that is truly the crazier element, is how similar they are. And essentially, these killing machines, as they're described, they drug intelligent, successful young men in bars or nightclubs, then abduct them and dump their bodies in bodies of water and leave behind a graffiti smiley face. So there hasn't been any mention of any smiley faces being found at Newtown Creek, but I don't even know if anyone's been looking for them. I'd be so interested to go down there and see if in these areas around Grand Street, if there's anything there, because I really suspect something might be there. Um, and, even Gannon, one of the detectives that formed this theory, has commented on Newtown Creek and asked the question, why was Carl running? What was he running from? Carl was found without his phone or wallet in a section of the creek that fronts a lumberyard. Why would these bodies be found in such a secluded location? It looks like they were taken there. And he's quoted as saying, the group, being the smiley face killers, they haven't been active in New York in a while, but they absolutely could be back because the smiley face killer has murdered in New York before. Back in the 90s, it was the case of Patrick McNeil. He was last seen at a bar called the Dapper Dog in Manhattan, drinking with friends. And he was seen in the bathroom throwing up right before getting to leave. And he was noticed outside of the bar, highly unstable and disorientated, kind of like someone who had been drugged by a date rape drug, for example. And he was shown stumbling, falling, vomiting. And as he started walking down the street, it's noticed that there was a double parked vehicle outside the bar with a man and woman in it who were watching him and following him in the car. And when he stopped, they stopped and waited. And this continued for a while until people lost sight of them. He was heading in the direction of the East River with the vehicle still following him. And 2 months later, he was found drowned in the East River. And there are so many questions about this. This case has never been solved. This is just one example of really a large amount of young men that have gone missing and murdered in America under the similar circumstances. And I really feel like we need to take a second look at Newtown Creek and really understand, what are the similarities here? Could the smiley face killer be back? Could there be copycat killers that are trying to follow their footsteps? It's very, very possible. And I feel like it's too much of a coincidence for it to not be connected.
All of this. I mean, it is daunting to see the
Mhm.
similarities. Obviously, they're all running from something, someone. There is, that alertness to what was potentially happening beforehand. I mean, this is just beyond, and which is why I was like, I need you to come on and talk about this because,
Mhm.
for me in Utah, it's probably not going to translate the same, for you and where you're at, and those close proximities. I mean, we have kind of a similar river, if you will, called the Jordan River, where a lot of bodies have turned up and have been found. So that's what this was kind of reminding me of, and then learning how close they were all
Mhm.
in proximity of, again, of a dumping ground, and just the success of each of them. And I mean, this is all just so incredibly fishy and makes me so concerned that there
Yeah.
isn't this like larger investigation in there, because there are so many keynotes in everything that you have said that should elicit an actual investigation, and potentially, just like you said, looking into these theories. I mean, that's not so far-fetched. And, our country is broken, is so
Mhm.
broken. And again, and we started this off talking about predators, and predators are lurking every which way. We
Mhm.
also know that predators don't always look like the scary person. And you
Nope.
know what I mean? And it's like, these are the reasons that we need to be talking about this. This is why we need to raise awareness. And what the hell is going on with the NYPD? Which is
Yep.
exactly what I said, when I brought this up in my episode, because I, I'm dumbfounded that after so many decades and so many years of watching how serial killers have been caught, and how far and extensive their past goes. I mean, it's,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, there is just so much that's left unsaid, but like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you
Yep.
go and figure this out? I mean, just, again, we were talking about Lisk. It's this similar type of pattern where it's like, okay, this keeps happening, but no alarm bells are going off for anyone?
Mhm.
No one.
Which is crazy. It's so
Huh.
crazy, and, like, you have the hallmarks of a serial killer, you have
Yeah.
periods of deaths with spaces in between, seemingly a pattern of happening over the warmer months of the year. You have John and Damani exactly 1 year apart to the
Mm-hmm.
day. You
Mm-hmm.
have this close proximity of the dumping ground within a 5-minute walk of each other. You have all of these unexplained deaths. Why are they not doing toxicology reports?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be somewhere to start because I guarantee that they probably have some type of date rape drug in their
In
system.
their system. Exactly.
Mhm.
Right. Right. And then the no body bag and preserving the
Yeah.
evidence at the scene.
Yeah.
What the
Mhm.
fuck? What the fuck? You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm just like, I can't wrap my brain around it, because I have worked with so many different police departments, and, homicide investigators, FBI, US
Mhm.
Marshals, who would absolutely go over all of this. But again, it's like, what is this disconnect? What is actually happening? And then learning that that officer just walked by that woman.
Yeah, literally burning
Uh,
alive, didn't offer
yeah,
assistance.
yeah.
And he has a duty of care. He took an oath
Regardless if you're on
to
Earth.
protect.
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes.
also just as a human, how could you
Hmm.
not want to help? And, like, in my own interactions with the NYPD, not directly, but some of my close friends, when they've tried to report a violent crime, the police have tried to convince them not to file a report. Literally
What?
tried to convince them out of pressing charges, convince them from not filing a report, and it really just seems like they don't wanna do the paperwork. They don't wanna have to process all of this paperwork and go through those steps, because why would you, if a victim is coming forward saying something horrible has happened to me, why would you not wanna help them? It's
That is
baffling to
wild.
me.
What is what is happening?
Mm,
That is honestly terrifying to
yeah.
to hear. You know what I mean? Like, it's one level, again, women going and reporting, you know, there's one
Mhm.
thing. Okay. But now we're talking about murder, and very vicious, violent crimes. Like, there's it doesn't sit right with me either.
Mm.
And I just appreciate you taking the time to write this out, talk about, who these victims are, and why we need to
Mhm.
put more pressure on NYPD. And I mean, I think before I was critical and saying they were taking their time. Now it doesn't seem like they're doing anything at
No.
all. at this point.
Mm. It
Because I
really seems
think,
like they're not doing
yeah,
anything, yeah.
yeah. And I think, let me see. So just July 21st with Dr. Bautista, so I recorded about a few weeks after that then. And so that's why too, it was like recording right now. I wanted to hear, like maybe what more of these updates were. And so it is just even more disturbing to me that
Mhm.
literally nothing has changed
I
then.
guarantee this is gonna happen again, and it's probably gonna happen in some of those other venues that I mentioned,
Right,
Brooklyn
right.
Mirage and Knockdown Center are just some of the venues. There's also Brooklyn Steel, I guarantee you it's gonna happen there.
Mhm.
Might happen at some of the smaller venues as well, but I think that, they hit 2 people, they got 2 people at Brooklyn Mirage, so they moved on to the Knockdown Center. They're gonna move on to other venues as well. I think
Yeah.
Brooklyn Steel will be the next one.
My gosh.
Unfortunately, I think this summer it's gonna happen again.
So anybody that's listening that, may have friends or they go to these venues, please be on high alert,
Traveling
really
groups.
travel in
Mhm.
groups, watch your drinks, definitely have a plan,
Yeah.
something, and I mean that is really nerve-wracking to even say that, to say the least, but
Mhm.
you're right. If there is no incentive to go and investigate any of these previous murders, you're
Mhm.
right. It can just keep happening again. And and it is so alarming because it does feel very much like a actual TV show, right? Of like just like you said, a markings of a serial killer and leaving all of these breadcrumbs. Why wouldn't you have the feeling that this is going to happen again? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like there is nothing that is fully allowing you to say, okay, this may not. So again, do what you can to be aware of your surroundings. And, this definitely isn't to, frighten people or alarm people, but it's to bring awareness. It
Yeah.
is so important that we keep an eye out for each other and we are talking about these cases and, I really do hope with time something happens, to
Mhm. Me
give
too.
justice for these families. And oh my gosh, my heart breaks that,
Yeah.
that none of these additional tests or just like you said, a toxology report would answer so much.
Mhm.
And just closing it and moving on is disturbing to say the least. So, like I said, I just appreciate you gathering all of this information, really laying it out in a way that is cohesive and really hopefully alerts people to what is actually going on. And
Yeah. Thank you for having me as well. It's been great to
oh
talk
my
about these
gosh.
important issues and bring awareness to them because shit's wildin' out there.
It's it's definitely yeah. And I'm a little, again, apprehensive to see how these next years play out, but I think it is really important that we offer a sense of community, offer that
Mhm.
support in this crucial time because if it's not us, who is it going to be? And so I just again, I know this was such a adventure for you and I to do this because,
Mhm.
like I said, it really has been just a pleasure getting to know you over the last couple of years and just knowing that our hearts are in the same place when it comes to seeking justice for victims and survivors alike. And again, just you bringing awareness to Isla's case along with, the femicide in Australia. These are
Mhm.
very hard, difficult topics, and to say the least. I appreciate you raising awareness on your own social media, but now doing this on such a more global platform. So I so appreciate you, Emma. And
I appreciate you,
oh
and
my
thank you for
gosh.
doing this podcast in general. I think that it's really what the world needs right now with everything going on. We need to be talking about these issues.
Absolutely. And it's not lost on me that, again, not everything gets put out in the media that we need to be hearing about. So I would love to keep bringing you on if, there's
Yeah.
more case updates and more cases that, you really want to highlight. Because like I said,
Yeah.
I've got my ear to the ground here on the West Coast. I need that East Coast ear. And
Mhm. Absolutely, I would love to.
well, I love it. All right, Emma, thank you so much for doing this. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.